This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org. Welcome to another edition of Maui Causes. Hi, I'm Sam Small. Eternal thanks to Kaku, our community access cable channel, for giving us the opportunity to use their studio facilities and to be able to get our message out to this community. Because we bring things on this show to the community that you're not likely to see in some of the other media outlets here in Maui County. Very often this show is responsible for being a positive disruption here in Maui County. What an interesting concept, that we would have an establishment that is so entrenched and so much empowered to skew every aspect of our local society towards the profits for companies and people that don't actually live here. It's an extension of the takeover from 125 years ago. People think that Hawaii and that Maui is like just another state in the United States. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not. The rest of America is just beginning to understand the extent that corporations and large money interests have taken over local, state, and federal governments. Here in Maui County, that's been the history now for over 125 years. Consolidated even more through World War II, and control just handed back to corporations and business interests that have left the people in the dust. They did it to the Hawaiians as they took over the culture, and basically they do it to anybody that's not in power. If you are not in power, you are being exploited. It's just that simple. We have a society here that is absolutely geared towards those being in power. And we have many mechanisms that are available to us as a community to take this power back. And this show is dedicated to helping foster those powers of local community support, self-determination. And as a measure of that, Maui Causes is the co-producer, the proud co-producer of the Maui Pono Network television show, which also tapes here at Akaku Studios and is airing also on Channel 55. Maui Pono Network is a grassroots organization that is doing what the Shaka movement started to do in 2014, but Shaka got sort of sidetracked with being sued by Monsanto. And so the energy went into defending the legislative bill that you voted for. The legislative bill that lit a fire in this community, that it empowered the community to come out and take control back from an exploitative system. And we tried to do it in that particular fashion. We won the election, but we were overturned in the courts. It lit a fire, though, in this community to bring change, to bring forth candidates that are willing and worthy of your vote, worthy and willing of your support financially. Go to the Maui Pono Network and look at those candidates that the community organization has endorsed for county council, for mayor, and for the state legislature. Those candidates need your support. They deserve your support, because with those changes, we can bring balance back to Maui County so that it's not completely an exploitative system. It doesn't need to be. How much exploitation, do you have to have? It's been completely uncontrolled. And so they are extracting every bit of value out of this community. We have an opportunity to transition Maui into a modern, mature metropolis with appropriate transparency. so that it's no longer backroom deals. It's no longer, shady things going on. That what takes place in the light of day. Land development here in Maui County has been, for decades, done behind the public's back. We'll be doing more shows and have done shows. If you go to mauicauses.org, you can take a look at the presentation that I was invited to give to Ellie Cochran's Infrastructure and Environment Committee about deferral agreements dating back to 1974 that for 40 years have gone uncollected. We gave away to A&B and to HCNS for decades. They dominated this society, they dominated the land, and it was no longer sustainable. It wasn't activists that forced HCNS to stop burning sugarcane. It was an economic necessity. The business model couldn't sustain itself. It was outdated. And we have a fantastic opportunity here in Maui County today because those lands and most importantly, the water is available for other things. We must find a way at the state level to take control of that water away from A&B exclusively. They never did deserve it, and they don't deserve to have exclusive use of that water today. There are other things that we as a community can be doing with that water to support what needs to happen here, which is a combination of things. Food production would be nice. We have only a 3-day food supply here on the island, so it'd be nice to generate food security. And we need to regenerate the soils that have been damaged by the heavy chemical agriculture that was represented through pineapple and sugarcane. We have an opportunity to bring new crops and new products to Maui so that we can restore our local economy. So very happy to be here today, especially to welcome my friend Steve Rose, who is the executive director of the Hemp Research Institute, the Maui Hemp Research Institute. Show him your shirt, and we can launch this conversation about why hemp is hope for Maui County.
Well, that's a heck of an introduction. Minor correction, it's the Maui Hemp Institute for Research and Development.
Thank you very much.
One of the key things, one of the big game changers, one of the tools that we're going to have to answer a lot of the things that you just talked about is going to be the cannabis plant.
Yeah.
An interesting plant. Cannabis has been around since human civilization, thousands and thousands of years. It's been found in 15,000-year-old settlements and goes back into the Bible where it was called the cannabosum in Hebrew.
And was the earliest uncovered tombs included in those tombs with the people that they buried hemp seeds.
Exactly. And so hemp has been with human civilization.
And revered by human civilization.
And essential, as we'll talk about in a little bit. 120 some odd years ago, it was banned in the US and parts of Europe.
Why?
Well, we had the end of Prohibition, and we have all these Prohibition agents, and their leader, Mr. Arnsberger, who said, we got to keep the guys working. They had immigration of Mexicans that they wanted to slow down. So the marijuana, or the Mary Jane, as it was called back then, was demonized, was made into this horrific substance. There's a movie, a couple of movies done on that.
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness, which is hysterical. It's on YouTube if anyone want to watch it. But basically, they put the demon on the plant.
Yeah.
Okay, and the demon was not for the THC, which is the active ingredient in the marijuana plant, but it was for the economics of the hemp plant.
Right. And it's actually the same genus of plant, I guess, but different varieties that have very different attributes.
The thing I like to use as a comparison is mushrooms. Okay, there are thousands of different types of mushrooms. Some you eat, like shiitake and button mushrooms. Some you make medicine out of. Okay, and then some are used for existential and changing one's perspective, like magic mushrooms.
And some of them are poisonous.
And some of them are poisonous.
So it's all cannabis, but it's hemp and marijuana?
No, it's all cannabis. Okay, the cannabis basically has three different major cultivars, they call them.
Okay.
There's sativa and indica,
Right.
which basically have THC, and those have been called marijuana.
Right.
Excuse me a second. And then there's the hemp plant, which basically naturally doesn't have THC. It's a very, very small amount in it.
Uh-huh.
Over time, the plants have been bred separately. The THC kind of got out of control during the 80s, and to the point where it was almost a THC plant, which got people very high and caused some side effects, and was able to be basically reintroduced as a demon by Mr. Nixon and Mr. Ehrlichman, who basically have admitted on public record that they demonized it just to keep the hippies under control and end the war movement of the 60s, which they successfully did by demonizing marijuana again and arresting people in the street just for looking like they smoked marijuana. But that's kind of...
And we have today a very high population in prison for nothing more than a little bit of marijuana.
Well, it was a good way to supply the private prison system that they started at the same time.
Right.
It was a way to feed it. But let's get into the positives of it, because
Please.
that's really where I want to go. You know, around the world right now, there's one plant that is changing human civilization again, and it's the cannabis plant. It's come back on the mainland. There are 32 states now growing cannabis legally. Many of them have basically taken all the bans off from both hemp and marijuana, so it's pretty much plant is back in play, and the plant is changing lives. It's curing people as medicine, it's feeding people as food, it's being developed into plastic bottles that can be recycled in 3 months, it's being built into houses through Hempcrete, just multiple thousands and thousands of uses for the plant, and it's probably the one common happy plant across the planet. Everybody is benefiting from cannabis in some form who's becoming involved with it.
Right. Well, the research, bears that out. The Israelis have done the research on the cannabinoid receptors to indicate that indeed, just as you said earlier, that hemp seeds were found entombed in the oldest known tombs on the planet. There was a reason for that. Hemp has been a part of human existence from the dawn of civilization as a food product.
And it was basically the banning of that about 130 years ago, taking it out of our food system because, basically the cattle ate the hemp plants or the cows and it was in the milk. And so the humans got the cannabinoids, the active ingredients in the plants through their food. When that was banned, a lot of diseases we find that are being cured right now by cannabis, seizures, epilepsy, didn't really appear, until after cannabis was banned. So there's a cannabis deficiency going on in this population.
And I think that is the key thing that I would like people to understand. It's like a vegetable. It's like carrots and broccoli. That we are, our systems are geared, we have a requirement to have these things. Well, if you don't have enough citrus vitamin C, you get scurvy. You cure scurvy by having vitamin C. Eat an orange, have a grapefruit.
Well, our body produces cannabinoids, that's what most people don't know. There's a system called the Endocannabinoid System, which really wasn't discovered until 1996. So your doctor, if he's graduated medical school before that, probably doesn't know anything about it. And even the modern doctors are just now beginning to look into the research again, like you said, from Israel. But the endocannabinoid system is our master regulator of our bodies. It's not our nervous system. If somebody has a spinal cut in their spinal cord, well, they may not have feeling in their legs, but the blood flows in the legs, the body digests. And that's not controlled by the brain, that's controlled by the endocannabinoid system. And the easiest way to describe it, and it could take days to really understand it, it's basically the DNA, which is the substance that builds our cells and builds our bodies. It's the basics of all life, The DNA communicates to other DNA in the body, trillions of DNA cells, through this endocannabinoid system. It's the communication system for the body. And the cannabinoids trigger certain receptors in the body. We have receptors in our brain, receptors in our liver, receptors in other parts of the body that are triggered by cannabinoids. We mostly talk about CBDs and THC, but there's over 130, and they just started numbering more cannabinoids. And most of them, we don't know what they do.
Right.
So the cannabinoids are triggers. They help trigger the body to discover how to create healthy cells, to revamp the body back to its healthy state like when you were born.
And there is an understanding in epigenetics, in a notion that spontaneously the body may have a requirement to change the genetic makeup to respond to the environment that the person is in.
But the way I usually explain it in my lectures is that our body's always producing healthy cells. Your body is not the same body it was a year ago or 2 years ago. It's all replaced the cells.
It's all replenished.
And the body follows a blueprint. Now that blueprint loses pages, gets milk spilt on it, gets pollution on it. Okay, everything happens to that blueprint.
My dog ate my homework.
Right. So if you have a swelling pain, your body is producing more swelling pain cells. Okay, it's lost the blueprint. The cannabinoids actually allow the DNA to go back to the blueprints, which is in the stem cell, discover what kind of cell they would be producing and start producing it. Many people have results from cannabinoids literally overnight because the body then understands what it should be doing. The body is a perfect healing system, okay? But sometimes it doesn't have the guide or the manual or the maps.
Needs a reset.
And that's what the cannabinoids are doing. They're resetting the bodies. On the bigger scale, the hemp plant is going to reset our economy here on Maui. My segue.
Wonderful metaphor. Thank you very much.
You know, we keep saying we need more sustainable agriculture. We need local involvement. We need jobs that pay significant money. Hemp is our answer. Hemp is hope. It's the one thing that can be lumped into hope. It's not the answer, but it's the start of so many answers. It's unbelievable.
Sure.
We basically, the best news I got this year was on Earth Day this year, we legally planted the first hemp crop on Maui. One of the things the Institute's been involved with, we created the Institute 4 years ago to kind of be the mitigator, the big guy on the block, to deal with the local population dealing with this hemp industry that's coming here. I mean, it's a multi-million, now billion-dollar industry worldwide. It's going to be growing. It's coming here. We can't stop it. But the challenge was, how do we make it really filter into our local community? How do we benefit as people who actually live here, not sleep here? So the Institute was created to be in that middle position and just try and make things really be done right. We're working with a lot of big corporations that want to come here. We've scared a few off because we told them what Maui's really about. And some people don't want to get involved. The ones that want to get involved with us that live here, okay, and really work with us in developing an industry where everybody benefits.
Right.
So to start with, when we planted the first legal crop, Leahu Ryder put together a special pule, and we blessed the land, which had once been decimated, okay, by wars and plantations and everything. So the land was rededicated with a special pule, and we intend to use that pule whenever we do hemp planting, because we want to basically create new traditions on this island. We have a new crop that will answer our food, our housing, our water. It'll answer just about every situation we're facing in some degree. And it's very exciting to see that happening. We have Hemp History Week coming next Monday, where we'll be out promoting the history of hemp, but we're making history now, which is even better,
right,
as opposed to talking about it. Our theme for Hemp History Week this year is deep roots, getting the roots in the ground. And you talked about our bad soil. That's the first project, is get hemp planted so we can remediate the soil. Hemp has been known to basically pull up heavy metals, pull out things out of the soil, okay, and sequester them or hold them into the plant itself.
Into the fiber. That's
into the fiber.
Into like this.
This is the stalks. This was grown on Oahu in the first hemp planting 3 years ago. 3 months.
3 months to grow. How tall?
I think these are about 10, 12 feet tall.
And then what's this good for? What's it used for?
Well, this is basically industrial hemp. So when you break this, it's called breaking it, there's two kinds of fiber in here. There's a shard, and then there's a long fiber. The long fibers are basically used for fabric, for rope, okay, and a lot of that right now still involves a lot of heavy manufacturing and investment. So we're not going to start there. We're going to start with the shard. It's the small shard pieces that are mixed with lime, pressed into a form, okay, or between walls, and they create a concrete wall.
So you can make like a cinder block.
The plan is to actually make like Lego blocks out of this shard, okay, which is a low manufacturing. We can build a factory to make Lego Hempcrete blocks for under $25,000. Okay, we make blocks, we stack those blocks, okay, and basically next year Tesla roofs will be available at Home Depot, which produce electricity and batteries. So 100 acres of industrial hemp of this type can build 3 3-bedroom houses with those blocks.
Wow. And we just need to add lime to it.
Just add lime and water. We're already bringing in lime for concrete. There is small lime deposits here on the island. It's the only thing we have to bring in. But you got to remember, we bring in 100% of our building materials.
Right.
Okay. This is the best wall you can put on the island because not only is it mold and mildew resistant, it's fireproof. Okay. Now, our concept that we're putting forth from the Institute and moving forward is our agenda. We're getting out to all the politicians, and we'd like the public to question their politicians if they're going to commit to doing it, is basically we have a lot of dry land, and a lot of that dry land is located around our sewage treatment plants, where we have something called R2 water, which is the water that's not fit for drinking and not legal to dump in the ocean. So the solution or unsolution solution has been injection wells, which is causing havoc to the freshwater system.
It doesn't. The injection wells do not do the job right.
So the concept is take that R2 water, grow industrial hemp, which sequesters all the junk in the soil and the junk in the water, because the problem with the R2 water are the heavy metals, okay, and the pharmaceuticals and everything else, which the plant will sequester.
So you're saying that the heavy metals are drawn up out of the soil into the plant, and when you harvest the plant, those heavy metals, they stay in the fiber. They don't leach out. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to put it in your house and like lead paint or something. It's going to decay and it's going to end up on your carpet. Your dog is going to start absorbing stuff.
It's at the molecular level in the plant.
It's not going anywhere.
And you got a concrete house. You build it out of the blocks. You put a stucco finish on it. You put your Tesla roof on it. You're running some plumbing, and you can build those houses in 3 months. So
for a fraction of the cost of importing building material.
I mean, one project which we hope to start fundraising next year and do in 2020 is grow our first building. And hopefully that building will be the Institute's first headquarters. But we want to build this building as a community. We're going to ask the construction unions, the construction contractors, the county, and the public at large
all to get involved,
to come in together. Let's build this first house. Let's grow the hemp together. Let's get the permitting done as we build this first one. So when that's finished, we can build hundreds. Okay. So basically, that would solve R2 water problem, housing, and soil remediation all in one shot. And then the next logical step is, after a couple of crops of hemp, the soil should be clean enough to begin to grow food.
It's going to take a couple of years to remediate the soil and bring that life back into it so that it does sustain a harvestable food crop.
Exactly. And there's other mitigations that need to be done. We have a test farm on the west side at Simply Fresh Farms where we have everything but the hemp going in. But it's a pilot project called the Food Forest, where we're able to basically create a forest using native canoe plants and other plants that are very popular on the island, and grow food. And the problem with growing the food forest right now is the wind. The wind knocks over the plants before the trees can even get stable. Hemp, when we grow this hemp, it won't look like marijuana with huge buds. It basically looks more like bamboo. It's thick, so thick that you don't need any pesticides or chemicals to kill the weeds because they're choked out. So it's basically an organic crop to start with. It uses probably about 1/3 as much water as sugarcane used to use.
1/3 of what sugarcane used to use.
And if you don't want too big a crop, you literally can plant it in the rainy season and harvest 3 months later, and you have a crop. It really doesn't need constant irrigation unless you're trying to produce a volume of material. So it gives us a way to kind of regenerate the soil, block the wind, build the food forest in there. Once the forest gets established, then those rows that had hemp are actually fields of organic soil, so we can grow crops in between. We also have a model where you could take an acre or two and fence it off, grow hemp, harvest the hemp. The dream is then let the goats in to eat what's left, And then you have goat milk and goat meat and goat cheese. When the goats are done, we let the chickens in, so we have organic chicken eggs and high omega-3 eggs. And when the chickens and goats are done, you pretty much have a farm. So that'll work on a smaller scale. And there's a lot to be done. That's why we have a research institute coming together. We want to build a campus where we can do this research and have the pilot projects. We're attracting a lot of attention on the worldwide playing field because Maui has 3 growing seasons and 30 microclimates.
Right. It was those growing seasons that attracted the seed business, the seed industry to come here. There were so many seed development companies that got bought up by Monsanto, that got bought up by Pioneer. They all started as small research groups, and they came to Hawaii to benefit from the accelerated development that they could do in seed production and seed cultivation because of the unique climates that we have here.
And that'll be a good core of the research that we want to build an institute for, have an independent research institute to do things independently. We will tie into UH, we will tie into other groups, but the idea is to have something that basically us who live here on Maui have some control over.
Right. And participation in economically and socially and
big time
spiritually.
Participation. Big time participation, because this is not going to create jobs. It's going to create business industries. It's going to create new products, value-added products. I mean, we have companies that can't wait to put Maui hemp seed in their products.
Right.
John Cadman makes pono pies out of ulu. He had put hemp seed in them to add protein. I mean, you add hemp seed to an ulu pie, and it's almost nutritionally complete. And throw in a little moringa powder, which is a high-grade nutritional leaf, okay, similar to spirulina. So ulu, moringa, and hemp are basically, we can live on those. We don't need milk and cornflakes. And we can grow those crops very quickly to feed our populace.
Right.
Just takes a little change on what you buy at the supermarket. It's more than rather than buy it at the supermarket, you grow it in your backyard, which is a lot easier.
Which that is kind of the point.
Yeah. So those things are changing, those times are changing, and hemp is kind of going to be leading the way here. It's already done it on the mainland, and economically, it's been such a growth spurt. Technology, there's equipment being invented that nobody even thought of 5 years ago.
To be able to process the fiber and the plant products.
And harvest it. I mean, at one point you need this huge factory to break the hemp to get that fiber out of. Okay, and now John Deere has it all on the combine. The combine goes down the field, it spits the shard one way, the fiber the other way, and
you're done.
And then no, you're not done, because then you come back and harvest the roots, because the roots are medicine, and the roots also make animal bedding.
Oh wow!
100% of this plant is used. There is nothing that's byproduct from this plant across the board. And this is only, with recent research. We can't wait till we have some more time to spend some research.
Well, sure, once you apply modern technology to dealing with the silica and the various different things that, for instance, you can do with bamboo. You make a T-shirt out of bamboo, and hemp has been a clothing product for,
forever.
since forever. That's, all canvas and cotton didn't exist before.
Well, it was one of the reasons hemp was banned was Mr. DuPont bought the patent on the cotton gin and was developing nylon, and his biggest competitor was hemp. So he basically funded a lot of Arnsberger's efforts to get hemp banned, which he was very successful
and
doing.
It's a measure of how insane and crazy the whole thing is, that on a federal level, but for the 2014 Farm Bill that carved out permission to do this stuff and create consumer products out of hemp. Hemp is classified as a federal class?
Schedule I drug.
Schedule I drug. Yeah. It's right up there with heroin.
It's actually higher than heroin in some close circles.
The federal attorney general will still try and tell you, Jeff Sessions will still try and tell you that this is worse than heroin. Are you kidding me?
Well,
it's insane.
It gets to the point where it becomes so obvious that they're fronting for another agenda, which is the established industry.
Right.
In 5 or 10 years, and write this down and look at it in 5 or 10 years and see how many industries have either disappeared or lost their lead. Pharmaceutical industry alone in Colorado, sales are down, I think, 20 to 30% on OxyContin because CBDs are replacing OxyContin.
Right.
So many drugs now are threatened,
right.
By cannabis medicine.
Right.
Threatened so much that now pharmaceutical companies are looking into growing cannabis and working on cannabis as one of their new drugs. and new medicines. The nice part about it is a plant. It's a complex plant. So being a botanist working with American plants for over 40 years, cannabis is one of those plants that's going to be very hard to patent. It's very complex. It amorphosizes to its environment. You know, if you grow cannabis in America and then you take it and plant it in Asia, after a while it'll start looking like the Asian cannabis. It just kind of mutates. And that gives the variance
to its
in the
environment,
active
which is
ingredients to the
probably
environment.
one of the reasons why it's so valuable that it can do something
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
Well, you know, that is the positive disruption. Hemp is the positive disruption, and it's why we, you know, love to be able to talk about it on this show, Maui Causes, because that's what we're dedicated for. So we do it in politics, and we do it in agriculture, and we are in full support of developing hemp here in Maui County. We'll be back with more and Steve Rose in just a minute here on Maui Causes. There's more to our show in just a moment. This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org. Welcome back here on Maui Causes. We're here with Steve Rose, who is a very, very knowledgeable man about the attributes of what these different food products can do for people. I know you have a rich history dealing with wild ginseng, a very rare commodity and a very rare root that has fantastic qualities for people. That kind of combination, hemp and ginseng, what kind of products can be created there?
Well, I've been doing a series of talks, and actually the next one will be at 808 Wellness in Kihei on Tuesday. I believe it's the 19th. It's that third week. And I do a talk on, basically it's called full spectrum healing. And it involves cannabinoids from cannabis and ginsenosides from ginseng. The cannabinoids work on our pineal gland, which controls our endocannabinoid system, and the ginseng works on our pituitary gland, which is the master hormone regulator. And these two glands are probably, in most people, been most compromised by food, environment, and everything
Heavy
else.
chemicals, right.
So getting these two organs back into balance and functioning right equals good health.
Right.
That's pretty much the short end of it. But give 808 Wellness a call, make a reservation. Seats are limited, but I talk for 2 hours on both these subjects, cannabis medicine and ginseng working together. And the medicine has basically just come into view. CBDs now, pretty much most of the audience has heard about CBDs. I'd imagine now even a percentage is taking CBDs.
I would think so. I mean, it's all the rage at this point. I mean, people really are seeing that they can mitigate pain and not have to take opioids by helping to just balance their system and use the CBD oil to do that.
Exactly. And it's a matter of, let me start first. CBDs are legal from hemp in all 50 states. The products are legal. Okay. It is a bit of a buyer beware because it's a bandwagon. A lot of companies are jumping on. There's a lot of small companies and multi-level companies whose products vary from batch to batch because they don't spend the money on the testing, or they're too much into the profit, and they're into a great misunderstanding. It's not more CBDs are better. CBDs work more like a triggering mechanism. So you want high quality CBDs in the right amount, not necessarily more is better. And even CBDs are limited because they're basically one of the 130 different cannabinoids. So the CBDs that are now starting to become very popular are what's called full spectrum CBDs.
Right.
One of the companies we work with, one of our sponsors, Ananda Hemp, they basically have a cultivar of hemp that's naturally high in CBDs. Just as some marijuanas are very high in THC, they're on the other side of the spectrum. Theirs is very high in CBD. And they grow this plant, which is high in CBD, but it has all the other cannabinoids in it, including 0.003 THC. You do need some THC.
Tiny, small,
Tiniest
not
bit.
enough that it's going to be psychoactive.
Exactly.
It's not going to, you're not going to get stoned from CBD oil.
Exactly. So basically, the full spectrum oils are now starting to even show other things happening in the body, because we don't know what those other 100 some odd cannabinoids do. But people taking those full spectrums are getting other and longer term results than just the straight CBD. So
Well, and so many people's bodies, their entire systems are so out of balance that when you bring these food substances back into people's body, all kinds of maladies just start to melt away.
And even just eating hemp seed, we've got our Manitoba hemp seeds, and there's other companies, lots of companies. Hemp seed, basically very high in protein. Okay, if you throw it in a blender with some water, you get hemp milk, and that's a good basis for your smoothie to take it or sprinkle it on your salad or whatever. But the hemp seed is very high in omega-3, 6, and 9 oil. And the omega oils are very critical to the body's health, and especially our skin in the tropics. A lot of people take fish oil to get their omega-3, but you need the 6 and 9 for the body to absorb it, and it's a ratio. And imagine that this plant has that perfect ratio to the human body, and it does. So I was a demo person for Manitoba, giving out thousands of bags of hemp seed, and you can see people who eat hemp seed for the first time, their eyes light up. They get this balance come into their body. So
you can
even
feel
just
the flush. I know people that have started using the Ananda hemp oil, and they absolutely get an almost instantaneous response.
Yeah. And the difference here is, too, which a lot of people aren't talking about, is these are not pharmaceuticals. You're not taking this to relieve pain. You're taking this to cure the pain. The cannabinoids help your body cure itself. I have a lot of people who took the oil and aren't taking it anymore. Okay, because they're healthy. The pain's away. They're sleeping good. Yeah, they may take it if it comes back, but it's actually a rebalancing of the body, and the body cures itself. So we're looking at something now that.
And then you need to maintain it. One would think.
For some, depending
certainly,
on lifestyle.
if as the Israelis are indicating that there are receptors for this, eventually what fills. The molecule that fills that receptor, eventually it ages or it falls out and needs to be replaced. So you need at some point to replenish into your body.
But again, it's just a trigger replenishment. It's not a supplement. It's not something you're taking and have to eat it and your body is digesting it for nutrition. It's basically a triggering mechanism. Kind of works a little bit more like homeopathy than pharmaceuticals do. And the results have just been incredible. What's happening now, with hemp medicine and then the cannabis medicine. Cannabis medicine, medical marijuana, which we have in our dispensaries, have the higher levels of THC. Hemp doesn't have basically any THC in it, like we spoke about. But for certain illnesses, for things like cancer, you want high THC. So something like our dispensary, where you can get high THC products, or there's a lot of shadow market products available. These are the ones that you're reading about that are making cancer tumors go away. The Charlotte's Web being one of the most popular of them all. Coming into play now on the medicine aspect of it. And that leaves a whole, we are an island of health and wellness. I mean, imagine our health and wellness industry. We have every part of our industry structure on this island will benefit from hemp. Okay, health and wellness, even our tourist industry will benefit. People come here, they want to get healthy, they take some CBDs and sit in the sun, they're feeling much better. It'll be great when we have an institute and a place where they can educate themselves about it and learn more about it.
And so there's a different path then that's taking place between the cannabis varieties, the sativa and the indica and the hemp. They have, because of the differentiation between the hemp being primarily CBDs and the indica and sativa being primarily THC, which is psychoactive, they've been segregated. And the need has been there to be able to develop. That's why hemp is essentially coming first, because it's not complicated by the psychoactive aspect of it. And so it's not an illegal drug, it's not a controlled substance. We both agree that neither one of them should be controlled substances, that both of them are legitimate food products and legitimate medicines that should should be available to the public. But hemp is coming first.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of the Institute. Right now, we're launching this week our Educate an Island initiative. Our goal in the next rest of this year is to educate the majority of people on this island on what hemp's about. That's why I'm on this show.
Right.
Okay. Once people understand about hemp and start to use it and tolerate it, then you can talk more about the other parts of the cannabis plant and the other members of the family. But hemp is basically the mainstream kind of introductory, and most of our population still thinks hemp is marijuana. The brainwashing has worked. It's been 100 years and generations of movies and lots of bad news and all these other stuff. But if you look at the real news on the mainland, we have 32 states now where it's legal to plant hemp. About 15 or 20 of them, cannabis is totally legal. There are 3 categories of the cannabis plant in society. Okay, we have the hemp, we have the medical marijuana, and then we have the recreational. So those are the 3 categories. Okay, Hawaii has legal medical marijuana. It's been very restrictive and almost buried in bureaucracy, but we finally have a dispensary open. We may have a second one that will open at some point. It's kind of disappeared off the radar. Hemp is legal. It's in all your stores. You can go to any of the natural food stores on the island, Down to Earth and Hawaiian Moons and Dragon's Den. They all carry hemp products now.
But that is really only as of 2014 Farm Bill.
Really almost as of this year. It took years. I mean, the Farm Bill was passed in 2014. Hawaii was one of the first states to pass. Under the Farm Bill, the state has to set up a regulation plan and basically create a permitting program.
Right.
So we were the first one to pass legislation for that in 2014. Okay, but we only planted seeds a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's taken 4 years to get from creating the permit structure to actually executing permits and getting seed in the ground.
And unfortunately, as we know in this state, in creating anything, the bureaucracy gets involved.
Right.
And basically the bureaucracy has taken our hemp permitting program and made a nightmare of it. Basically they're requiring our farmers now to pay $500 to file their application, which is non-refundable.
Oh, well.
And you need a scientist to fill out the application. And the Institute has companies on the mainland that will help our farmers fill out those forms.
Right, and that is the role of an institute like the
and even provide funding for it.
Right.
But the next big hang-up is now they're requiring us to buy seeds from China, which are approved seeds. And I don't know who's making money on those, but there's so many legal seeds on the mainland, and there's companies that want to come here and just grow their seeds, okay, for experimental purposes, and they can't do that because of the limitations put on by the law. So we're urging all our politicians, okay, to wake up. We are basically taxing and penalizing our farmers for wanting to grow hemp, where states like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey now, New York put $8 million into their hemp program to support farmers. They're actually looking for farmers and giving them money to grow hemp. They know where the industry is going. They're predicting a $2 billion hemp industry in New York State alone in the next 5 years.
Wow.
$20 billion cannabis industry in California in the next 5 years. We're talking billions. On Maui, it'll be millions within the next 2 years. We have companies ready to make major investments on this island, as long as the bureaucracy doesn't get in the way and they can deal with the local people. We've talked to companies that want to come in and be like the plantation mentality, and that's not what works here. And we've told them what's happened in the past.
The companies interested in creating a monocrop situation like sugarcane was.
And all that would do would make them money and hire a few people at $15 an hour farm jobs, but it doesn't make our farmers grow anything else.
Right.
And it doesn't really bring anybody else into the project.
Right.
But after explaining to a lot of these big corporations, and we put the word out, that we have a population here, and through the Shaka movement and now the Pono group, there's an active population that really wants any industry that comes here to be involved with us that live here. And that's the Institute's position. We want any company that comes here to be involved with us that live here. Right. And some companies have stepped forward. I'm not going to drop any names, but some of them are just pretty awesome. And we're doing preliminary discussions with them. They're trying to figure out what the next steps are. We've lined up farmers to work with them. We're seeking other farmers with farms to work with. These companies want to come in. They want to do experiments. They want to grow. They want to empower farmers to grow hemp. A lot of the product companies know the value of the Maui brand. They want to do exclusive Maui products.
Sure, fantastic.
A Maui CBD, a Maui hemp product, will sell anywhere at a premium.
Right.
And the nice thing about most of the products like CBDs or value-added products, the shipping is not a big problem, okay? And we also have something like 5 or 6 million visitors that would buy hemp products when they come through.
Sure.
So the big companies on other parts of the world see Maui as a major playing field for them to develop products, work with the population, and create sustainability. We have, there are companies out there that really care about sustainability. They don't get the press, they don't get the news, but they're in play, and a lot of them have already got one foot here, and they're looking to work with us. So we're out there asking, the public to get educated. We have a couple of things during Hemp History Week that people can get involved with.
Please.
We'll be launching Hemp History Week on Monday, June 4th. We'll have our Hemp is Hope informational tent in front of Whole Foods Market from 11 until I can't talk anymore. And we'll have displays, we'll have samples. We're going to do some fundraising to help fund the educational program. We'll be there on Monday. We may be back a few other times during the week at Whole Foods. On Saturday, we'll be doing the same event at the Lapoa Street Farmers Market on Lapoa Street in Kihei. That's my farmers market running for 8 years. We'll have our hemp booth there. We'll have lots of hemp samples and fun things to do with that. On the 14th, we're going to have a meeting with the Hawaii Farmers Union at the Maui Tropical Plantation. Everybody's invited. It's a potluck. Bring a dish to feed a bunch.
It's the best potluck on Maui.
It is the best potluck on Maui. We'll have our hemp booth there. We'll be talking about the permitting system and dealing directly with the farmers, looking for farmers that want to get involved. And then I'll be doing the hemp medicine one at 808 Wellness on the following week. But again, we're outreaching for education, and I have to ask you, the audience out there, find me people to talk to. Give me 20 people, I'll come talk. Rotary, Kiwanis, health organizations. We want to educate people. You're seeing this show, but a lot of people won't watch this show. We want to get into the community and tell people that the hemp is coming, what it's about, and that it's actually going to be the biggest benefit this island has ever seen. One of the reasons people keep looking at Maui is that we have cultivars here, okay, of indica sativa, marijuana, okay,
Right.
that were not found
There's a
anywhere
very
else.
healthy recreational cannabis sativa and indica
to the
production.
tune of 1 million plants called by the state about 2 years ago, which is a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of business that's
So
already
it's
being done.
It's a thriving one, and those growers that we've got to meet, they have cultivars, they have seeds. Some of them have even grown hemp because they crossbreed the hemp back into the marijuana, because a lot of things that happened back in the 80s kind of took the energy out of the plant by getting too much THC. And some of them now are realizing that they need CBD in the medicines, because a lot of our growers that were doing recreational now doing medical. Because the dispensary is wonderful, but it's like going to the hospital, and a lot of people can't afford the hospital. And if you have a family doctor or a family practitioner, you'll go to him. So a lot of our old recreational growers are becoming practitioners now,
Right.
In that. And soon, it's only a matter of time before all cannabis will be legal in Hawaii. I don't know if it's 2, 3, 5 years, but it's inevitable. And when that happens, then their technology and their science will get into the mainstream, and it's going to blow a lot of people away. We have medicines being created here by some of our backwoods guys that aren't being created in some of the best hospitals on the planet. That's my research that I've done here on Maui. Everybody who lives here kind of knows what goes on and talks about it, and the information is mind-boggling when you find out what some of our local boys know about the medicinal properties of cannabis, and and then just the benefit of it. A couple of months ago, I went out to Kaupo to look on another farming project, and went to the house, and the aunties and the uncles were all sitting there, and I had my hemp shirt on, and one of the aunties goes, "Oh, I'm using the hemp medicine for my arthritis," and two of the other aunties, "Me too, she's turned me on to it." And this is in Kaupo, okay, and one of the recreational growers, he was buying the Ananda oil and selling it to the aunties because he knew what he had. The aunties don't want to get high; they just want the
They
CBDs.
do the medical practice. Yep.
So he basically was supplying them with the Ananda oil.
It's a fantastic product.
Yeah, and so we have this grassroots movement of health that's coming. We can develop our own medicines now and our own foods. And then buildings.
And one of the things that the Research Institute, I think, is uniquely placed to do is to facilitate the research in the pollen the issue of pollen drift? Because, as we've said, there are established crops of indica and sativa growing here. The introduction of hemp could be a complicating factor for that. So how is that? How do you see that? How is that to be dealt with?
Well, I think there's a lot of no information on this subject.
There's a lot of wrong information.
The pollen issue was used by both sides during the anti-marijuana times. It was used by the anti-marijuana, we're going to grow hemp and destroy your marijuana, and it was used by the marijuana people, to keep, some of them are still against hemp. It's inevitable that all types of cannabis are going to be grown here in Maui. There's no stopping it. The question is, can we mitigate any problems, okay, and can we find a way to sustainably make everybody win, okay? And I think we can. First of all, we don't know what the pollen issue is. There's never been any studies. There's lots of rumors. And a lot of the rumors are even now spread from Colorado and Oregon, where they have wars between the hemp growers and the marijuana growers because it's economics. Okay. Most of our growers here, and the growers I've spoken to that I really know what they're doing, say the pollen issue can be mitigated in most cases. Where we're planting right now, the wind goes out to the ocean. It doesn't swirl around. So even if the pollen comes out, the hemp we're growing now doesn't even put out pollen because it's going to be harvested before it puts out the seed head. It's industrial hemp.
Yeah, right.
So we're not even at that stage where we're growing hemp with seeds yet that
Right.
puts out pollen. That's even a couple of years away. So we have some time, which is wonderful also.
So the seeds in the ground will not go to pollen.
They probably won't. Some will because some are grown for seed, but that's in a very isolated area. And that's one of the reasons the Institute got engaged.
Right.
Is before these companies came here to grow this, we talked about this, and we kind of and they're aware of it. Matter of fact, the people they've hired to grow it are some of our old recreational growers are actually working, to do it. So these guys have worked with both.
They
plants,
know what they're working with.
and they're keeping an eye out. The Institute has its tentacles everywhere to kind of feel out what's happening.
Good.
One of the first research projects I want to do is put up a hemp field and put some marijuana plants in the middle of it and see what happens.
See what happens.
No one's ever done that I've seen any recorded history about. If anybody has a study, please forward it to me. But we've not seen any real studies done on this, okay? And even if it becomes an issue, I think we can also form a gentleman's agreement on this island. We're all Ohana and family here. There's no reason for us to grow hemp in a lot of places where the sativa and indica grow well. It's just not good for hemp, okay? And there's no reason you'd want to grow the sativa indica where you grow the hemp because there's better things for that. Most of the recreational now is moved indoors. It's thanks to our helicopters flying still. It's the only place in the country the helicopters are still flying for some reason. So a lot of the high quality is moved indoors. So yes, some people will be affected. Hopefully there'll be other parts of the industry they can get into to make their income, and there'll be enough of the recreational available. Like I said,
Things will balance out.
In 2 to 5 years, recreational is going to become legal here. It's going to change the whole game. You'll have everybody growing it in their backyard, then it'll be another issue. But again, it's going to be a matter of conversation, and that's why I'm on the show. That's why we have an institute.
Right.
I'm open to conversation. I'd love to talk to people who have those concerns.
And how can they reach you?
Our website is MauiHempInstitute.org, and you can email us through the website, or it's MauiHemp@iCloud.com. That's our email address. We also have a great Facebook page where I post all these current happenings on our Maui Institute Facebook page.
Right.
If you go on our website, right on the front page, there's a link to our Future of Maui blog that we wrote for Hemp History Week. Nice article that I was told that I wrote, which talks about what I've been talking about here in a little more detail.
Great.
We have a 30-page paper PDF on our website that we wrote for Congresswoman Gabbard to give her ammunition when she goes in front of government on the future of hemp on Maui. So our website is really good. It's got a lot of information, more coming. Again, we're a small organization.
Donations accepted?
Donations much needed. Membership much needed. You can become a member on the website, and all that money is going now to support the institution's educational efforts and get me out there and talking. It puts gas in the tank and gives me a chance to get out and talk about hemp rather than have to do other things that pay the rent.
Right.
So we're pushing hard to get the Institute funded because I don't want to be doing this. I want to be able to hire some people who are better than me to go out and do it. And we want to get our media. So we're asking for support. Become a member. When we have our events, we'll be opening up educational donations. We'll have lots of nice samples and things like that. But we need community support. We also need volunteers. Although people come down and help me with the booth. Come see me on Monday at Whole Foods. I'll sign you up for some volunteer work.
Great.
We need some media people. You know, our website is gorgeous, but that's my opinion because I built it. I'd love to have the money to hire a good company to really put up a little more quality interactive website than we have right now.
Sure.
You know, and it's just
And
all the
Maui
basics.
Causes has been a big supporter of the Hemp Research Institute.
Since
It'd be
day
nice
one.
for Maui Causes to get paid for the
Right.
work that Maui Causes does.
And actually, Sam did an incredible video from Hemp History Week 2 years ago with Maui Brewing Company. We didn't make it this year because we're working on a bigger plan, but for 2 years in a row, Maui Brewing Company made a hemp ESB beer.
Yep,
That was
delicious.
awesome.
Yep.
They want to go into production on the beer, except they need 2,000 pounds of hemp seed, organic, which we can't do yet. So we're working on a project now to facilitate growing that seed for the brewery, and the brewery looking long-term to getting into production of a Maui hemp beer. I don't have to tell you how good that's going to sell. So, you know, we have local businesses that are ready to step in. If you have a business that sees hemp in its future, come talk to us. We'll connect you if we can. We'll use you to help us promote everything across the board. You know,
And that's that's what's so wonderful, I think, about what you're doing is that it is essentially a community-based thing. It's not a big corporation coming in here, you know, with a sledgehammer and saying monocropping, we're going to do this and you're going to have to do it our way. Yeah. This is finding what our way as a community. This is finding what the right way it is for it to happen here organically here on Maui in a way that supports the community at all levels, and that's the kind of thinking that is so necessary here in Maui County. That's the kind of thinking, the kind of shift that this show is dedicated to helping to bring to Maui County. Steve Rose, thank you so much for joining us today and bringing these hemp products. Thank you all to the community for your support of the Hemp Research Institute for...
Maui Hemp Institute for Research and Development.
Thank you very much.
Two causes, research and development to sustainability for our island.
Fantastic. Join us again next week on MauiCauses.org. Aloha. This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org.